Welcome back to Qualified Dropouts, everyone. As you can see, we are in a little bit of a different scenery. I'm with my dear friend, Matt. If you didn't know who he is, well, actually, y'all have no idea who he is.
Nice.
I'm actually partnered with Eclipse Labz. He is one of the owners of Eclipse. So we're going to kind of dive deep into his story a little bit and stuff he's overcome. He is a lot older than me, and I just wanted to...
Whoa, okay. A lot?
No, I said a little bit. I said a little bit older.
Oh, okay, I thought you said a lot older.
No,
I was
no.
like, whoa, dude.
Well, what's claimed as a lot?
Okay. What is?
Yeah, what is claimed as a lot?
Oh, I'd probably say at least 15 years.
Oh, at least 15. Okay, I would say 10.
Yeah.
But you're close to that
10,
mark.
10 would be a generation. 10 is like a generation. Okay.
But I did want to appreciate you for everything you do for me when I'm here. He always gives me a good place to stay. You and your wife are great people.
Hells yeah.
So
And the dog.
And the dog, yeah. Alicia's great. I may have to get her on the podcast. You can talk about some stuff. That'd be fun.
That would be a good one.
Yeah.
That'd be a good one.
But, you know, I thank y'all very much for the stuff you give me and Tina when we come here. So
We try.
yeah, man, y'all are good people. Y'all are good people. So let's dive into it, man. So school, first off, you went to college. He actually finished. Him and his wife both finished. Weirdly enough.
Yeah.
But talk a little about that. Why did you want to finish?
Well, so originally, I actually wasn't going to go into college. I was actually going to go into the military. That was kind of the goal, pretty much like since day one. But then my father, who was in the military, was like, hey, you know, go in after college. It'd be better to go in as an officer. So both me and my wife went to Shippensburg University and both got degrees in exercise science and biology. She graduated magna cum laude, so she's a lot smarter than me in that sense. But I am the type of person where, like, no matter what I do, I will finish it. And so going to college, you know, I was fortunate enough that I didn't have to spend the money, you know, like my parents paid for it. And so at the end of the day, that would have been very unfair to them to kind of waste that type of money and not finish. There were some people that I know, even in my family, that like kind of did that, and I know like that just was never a good look. So I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to commit to it. And that's also the way I am with almost everything I do that I'm going to commit to. So
yeah. So you got a job at a college though, right?
Yeah. So I did work on campus. The first year I didn't have a job, and then the final 3 years I worked on campus. So it was called like a work study. Essentially what it is, it's a government issued job. So, you know, it's like I could say, you know, I worked for the government, but essentially what I did was I was actually the assistant to the house manager for a theater.
Assistant to the...
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's straight office, you know. And so basically what it was, I would help set up the green room, and I would help set up for all the performers that would come through. So when I say theater, don't think like, you know, like musicals and stuff for the campus. That was actually at a different place. We actually did all like the high-end performances. So country singers, stand-up comedians, like I got to meet some like real cool people. But yeah, pretty much did all the setup for them. It was more like hospitality type stuff.
So what was the job coming out of college though? Because you didn't start Eclipse until, what was it, 26 you said?
No. So coming out of college, worked as a personal trainer.
That's what it was.
And at GNC. Yeah. So I was kind of like,
there was something attached with it.
Yeah. I was like a night manager at a GNC or at a Gold's while I was personal training during the day, and then I was just like a normal sales associate at GNC at the time.
Did you hate it? Like now that you're at the position you are now, do you wish you would have started Eclipse earlier?
No. So actually, I will say this, you know, doing what I did gave me the experience and like the know-how to make this a really solid brand. Yeah. And you like anytime like you start something new, like you're always gonna have mistakes, and you're always gonna have kind of this like maybe like uneasy feeling, even if in the back of your mind you know it's going to be good, you still have this like you know, you can still make an easy mistake. But working at the GNC, the only downside of that was it was a really terrible GNC. Yeah. Like I would be in the store and I'd get like maybe 2 or 3 people show up in a day. Like it was bad. Like, it was inside of a mall. The mall was kind of a failing mall. The Gold's was actually in the mall as well. The Gold's was actually right next to. It actually shared a wall with the GNC. Like that's why I worked there. And I never got paid until I actually left. Wow. So I worked there for several months. My manager never set me up, and I never actually got a paycheck until after Christmas. It was like after working there for like 2.5, 3 months, I got all my paychecks like 3 days after Christmas.
That's ghetto.
It was bad. It was bad. Yeah. It wasn't like, it was a good experience. And to be honest, it's because of that job and others that has led me to where I am today. Like 100%. Like if I wouldn't have had that job at GNC, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. Or if we did, it'd be in a completely different light.
Yeah.
Completely.
So that's something I wanted to dive into, was like branding, because a lot of people that do listen to this podcast want to start something of their own. So why did you name it Eclipse Labz? And because I don't even know that story.
Yeah.
And 2, what was the point in your career when you were like, okay, now it's time for me to start this brand, fuck these other jobs?
Yeah. So the way it worked was we had purchased a pre-existing company back in 2018. And the problem with the company was, one, it had very, very little infrastructure. So there's multiple ways you can build a company, and especially a brand. And even in the supplement world, when you look at supplement brands, I know individuals that it's just themselves. They start out of a garage and they've built just one product, and it's been like direct to consumer. And then you see other brands that day one, they're in GNC, and they have like 8 different products, all these different flavors, and you're like, how is this possible? So there's definitely many ways like you can do it. You need to figure out the way that is going to be best for you financially, and what your capabilities are, or the team that you're working with. And so for us, we knew that we basically had to take a pre-existing company and like reestablish it, right? Which isn't it, like, to be honest, it actually helps you in a sense, because you already have cash flow, you already have products being sold, but now you need to make a transition. The only issue that we had going out the gate, or coming out the gate, was the products and the customers that we were selling were not going to be the same products that we were going to be selling in the future.
Yeah, so what was the pre-existing company you bought then?
So the pre-existing company would have been called SP Tech.
Okay.
Right, so SP Tech...
Was it a lot?
What do you mean?
Like, how much was it, if you want to disclose it?
Oh, the price?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I want to actually disclose that. It was a lot. It was a lot. And again, full transparency. Even though I was making really good money working for the company, so essentially what happened was, we'll kind of take this back a little bit.
Yeah.
I worked at GNC, and then we moved down. Me and my wife, at the time we were still dating, we moved down here to Texas. And I had a job as personal director of PT for LA Fitness. I quit my job in 10 days.
Yeah.
So I moved halfway across the United States. Both me and my wife were broke and jobless.
Yeah.
So I was like, holy shit. One of the insider sales guys at Cellucor, before I had left GNC, he was like, hey man, like, when you come down to Texas, let me know and I'll give you a tour of the facility. And I was like, whoa, like, Cellucor? Like, this is like, and keep in mind, this is back in 2016. So this is still when Cellucor is very much a big time player within like the powders.
Yeah.
Nowadays, like, they're mainly big now, like, for drinks, and that's really about it. But what happened was, I was like, dang. Well, sure enough, I hit him up and I was like, hey man, like, I literally just quit my job. Like, were you being serious? He's like, dude, come on out. Literally 3 days later, I had toured Cellucor's headquarters. Amazing place, by the way. Like, 2 whole buildings. Building B was just a full size gym with like basketball court and all this stuff. And I was like, man, this is like literally like the dream. I was like, this is like one of the coolest companies in the world right now. And this would be a huge opportunity for me. So started working there. And then after about 2 years, got laid off. The whole and to be fair, it was the whole marketing department, so it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
And then the guy who actually created the original C4, so the original formulator, was like, hey, I have like this guy that wants a broker. And I was like, I have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
I was like, what? And he's like, well, you basically just sell product, what you're doing, but I think you just get paid more, and that's a lot harder of a job. Okay. Reached out to this guy. He was showing me products I've never heard of, but they worked really, really well. And keep in mind, there's still a little gray area, so we won't really disclose everything about it, but it was pretty gnarly. It was awesome products back in the day. A lot of those products you would not be able to sell nowadays because they wouldn't be compliant. And so we basically took that, and after about 2 years, I became lead broker. I was also brokering like manufacturing deals, so making like pretty large amounts of money per month, making probably making more in 1 month than what some people make in a year.
Yeah.
Right? Actually, what a lot of people make in a year.
Yeah.
And so what happened was transitioned those funds into helping purchase the company. That was actually something that me and my family went in on. So it wasn't just me. I always try to be very, very transparent. Like when you go to buy a multi-million-dollar business, when you're 24 years old, chances are you don't have those kind of funds.
Yeah.
And so you have to outsource that, whether that's working with a bank, the SBA, or family and friends. Like that's kind of the stuff you have to do.
Yeah.
So we took it over in 2018, and then tried reestablishing it. So
yeah. So circling back then.
Yes. Yeah.
So when you were working in Cellucor. I always think it's Cellular Core.
Which technically it was actually Nutrabolt. Nutrabolt was like the mothership. So when you look at it, Nutrabolt owned Extend, Cellucor, Royal, Neon, even those Vortex spinning water bottles. So it was a very, very large conglomerate. So.
Gotcha. So then I'm assuming now hearing what I heard, because I actually didn't know that story. I didn't know that you were a broker. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
I thought you were just only like in the marketing sales department.
No. So marketing and sales is where I do well at. But brokering, and it's think of it as just like a really, really strong like networking type of job.
Yeah.
That's really where I kind of shine.
Yeah.
It has been kind of like the
and even with
side.
Eclipse, that's where you shine too.
Oh, to this day. Oh, yeah. I mean, like for the most part, like with the help of like some other individuals, like I'm basically like the main salesperson. It was actually kind of funny because like we were just out in Vegas doing some demos, which is literally what I used to do for Cellucor, and some of like the store managers were like, "Dude, you're like the first owner that's like ever come out and like done this." And I'm like, "Well, I mean, like I want to hear feedback from my customers. I want to hear feedback from the people also selling my product, because it's the process of giving the people what they want. So you have to you want that feedback."
Now hearing all of that, you definitely quit Cellucor, or did you get laid off?
So got laid off, and technically we were asked to come back 3 months later at a 50% pay increase.
Wow.
So I will say this. They were true to their word. So when I got laid off, keep in mind this was right after Christmas too.
Yeah.
And me and my wife at the time, we would always go home for 2 weeks. So we always spend a crap ton of money flying back to Pennsylvania, driving back. And we got back, and I was like, dang, dude, I was like, put a lot on my credit card. And then they're like, yeah, you're laid off. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And so, but keeping true to their word, they said after 3 months, we would hire you back on at a 50% pay increase, which is huge. Like that was like huge. But at that time I was like, well, hey, I actually did get the phone call 3 months later, and they're like, were you interested? And at that time I had moved on. I was still working at Gold's, the Gold's here in San Marcos. I was one of the original personal trainers, and they actually wanted me on the sales team, not on the personal trainer side. And it was funny because when Cellucor laid me off, literally my manager at Gold's was like, dude, now. He's like, I'll hire you. So I managed to get literally turned around relatively quickly, because I don't want to say people wanted me, but like I already had conversations with people that were already like in talks about pulling me onto different things. So I basically just quickly transitioned out of one thing into the next.
Yeah. So I'm assuming, again, circling back to it, you wanted to buy the whatever company, what's it called again?
SB
Tech. You wanted to buy that because you already knew how to do all the brokerage stuff with Cellucor and Cellucor.
Hooked on phonics.
And you were like, I have a lot of potential with this, and I can make more, and I can do it myself.
Yeah. So
was that the mindset going into it?
Yeah. So it was kind of wild, man. To maybe even go back a little bit, we were up in Pennsylvania for Christmas, and my oldest brother was like, dude, man, like whatever like you're doing, you're obviously killing it in supplements. And back in our college days, me and my brother used to make a lot of money doing house parties.
Yeah.
And that's kind of
like you telling me about that.
Yeah, that's kind of where the whole business model thing came from, is like at our college, man, like nobody was throwing like legitimate parties. It was always like these things where like you'd show up and people would be like, oh, cake's kicked. And you're like, oh, okay, that's lame.
Yeah.
We would charge, and people would be like, dude, what the hell, $5? And you're like, well, man, we run through 35 gallons of jungle juice in a night and a keg. So like for $5, I don't know if you can go to a bar, spend $5 and get completely blitzed.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. You know, we were making really good money doing that. Obviously, it was illegal, so let's not I don't condone that. Okay, but we needed to make money in college, so that's sometimes you have to do stuff like that. And so at the end of the day, that was kind of like the foreshadowing. That was like, hey, you guys have a knack for business, but a knack for business and really servicing people in a good way that they're like, oh yeah, give the people what they want. And so we actually went and started our own brand. So we set up an LLC, and what happened was I was putting together products that I was going to private label from SP Tech. Yeah. And the owner of the company was like, dude, I don't want to compete against you. Essentially, he was like, hey, you know what?
So he was kind of saying you're better than me.
In a sense, because he was kind of already retiring. Yeah. And so like his business, which I didn't know this going into it. So again, when you do take over businesses, you do need to do a thorough investigation of books and everything. The business was actually on a decline.
Wow.
Every year by $1 million.
Shit.
But when we took it over, that full first year that we had it, we increased sales by like 1.1 million.
Wow.
And so,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's really who's behind the wheel, who's going to be in charge of like always evolving the company. You can't continuously do the same thing over and over again as a business. And so what happened was we were trying to start something new. He kind of saw the writing on the wall a little bit and was like, hey, you know what? Let me just sell you my company and you can use it to kind of fund your next business venture. And that's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
So
you think he got boned? The price he gave, like now?
No. So
a good price, he get boned.
I would actually say it was a pretty legitimate price. I think the way the deal was done, it was a very high risk, high reward type of situation. And I won't disclose the number, but I will say this, and this like legitimate, like off camera, I could even show you the contract. The way the contract was written up, we had a very large lump sum deposit, which was half the cost, and then 2 years of a very large payment, like 5 figures payment every month. And if we missed 2 back-to-back payments, the company went back to him.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we actually,
that was only for 2 years though?
Yeah, and we actually paid it all off in a year and a half.
Damn.
Yeah. So it was kind of one of those situations where if we would have like really made a big mistake, like not only would we have lost all that money that those payments were going to, we would have lost that whole lump sum.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would have been bad. It would have been like, really bad. And but again, for the record, I don't condone this. Okay. There's much better ways to do deals. I was 24 at the time. So I was, again, we're talking about 6 years ago, much younger and, not as well versed in doing like this type of things. Most of the time, if you're going to buy a business or even start your business, it doesn't go this way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like most of the time, it's a lot more clean cut, if you will.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was kind of nerve-wracking.
What was the stress levels at that time?
So
like how stressed were you when you were like, fuck, I have this payment coming up and like I haven't sold shit?
No. So luckily that would never faze me like that. But I will say this. For the next 2 weeks after I signed that contract, I was like puking in the shower like every morning. Like 100%. Like
really?
Dude, 100%. Like I was like so nervous. I was just like you're literally throwing up because I mean imagine like and even till like this day, once you own a business, if it's just like you, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're honestly that stressed out because you're running your own business, not trying to be a dick, but you're kind of a puss. Okay.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, but
I tell people that all the time.
You gotta understand, when we actually purchased the business, I had my closest friend from high school move out from California. Scott, to this day, he can attest to this. We were on the phone with the previous owner. He's like, I'm not gonna sell you the company. And we're like, oh shit. Wait, what? I was like, I have people involved. Like I have people invested to be here. They've changed their lives. So when you have friends or family or just any type of employee, whether it be 1 or 100, you're always waking up nervous every day. It's like having to have that speech. Like so say tomorrow I'd be like, give a speech to 30,000 people. And you have to do it tomorrow. Yeah. Okay. Like you're gonna have like a pit in the bottom of your stomach. You kind of have that pit almost every day.
Yeah.
For the most part, because you don't ever want to fail, because if you fail for yourself, whatever. But if you fail for them, that's a whole nother situation. So yeah, definitely nervous.
So how did you overcome that? I guess it's more of like a self-belief thing, because now obviously you're not that way anymore.
Still,
you probably are on some. Probably when you went
to some level. Again, you'll always be like that.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what's guaranteed tomorrow. Okay. You know, we went through COVID. That was, I'll be honest, man. For business, that was one of the worst things that anybody who owns a business could have ever experienced. Like, to be honest, if you kind of get through that little gauntlet, then you can kind of get through about damn near anything, because, you know, our sales just plummeted. I mean, we're talking like, if you were like, I'll throw out like a random number, right? If you're doing like say $100,000 a month, right, in sales, like it pretty much dropped down to like maybe 5,000.
Wow.
That's how a lot of people like were during COVID. Like your business is just completely just stopped. And that's not cool, because like you're still having to pay employees, you're still having to pay rent, you're still having to like buy stuff. Yeah. And whether that be like for yourself or for the business, like you're like, what just happened? So the whole world got turned upside down with stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, just understand that, like, just because you own a business, and even if you're doing well, and even if you have, you know, tons of money saved up at any point in time, I mean, dude, that crushed our savings. Like that literally, like we went from having like money in the bank to being like, whoa. Yeah. Like, whoa. So you have to adapt, and you always have to be ready to make some scary decisions. Seriously. Because and that's just business. Like, but that's the risk you take when you work for yourself. And to be honest, like that's the biggest thing about owning something, is you're not guaranteed. So say you own a business 100%, you're not guaranteed 100% of the profits. Yeah. You're actually guaranteed 100% of the stress. Yeah. That's it. Like that's it. Like I'll be honest. Like if you want to talk about guarantees, I guarantee you will be stressed. I guarantee. So if you can't handle stress, if you can't handle that type of like anxiety, then maybe owning a business is just not for you. Like, there are leaders and there are followers, and you need both. Yeah, that's it.
That's also something I wanted to dive into real quick, is knowing who you are. So like either an entrepreneur or maybe an entrepreneur of a company. Like I would say, like for me and Tino, for Eclipse, we're more of like entrepreneurs in a way.
What would be the difference?
So like an employee is like, you go to work, you have tasks, you do it, but an entrepreneur is like, you still work for them, but you also like give ideas, you give insights on things, you're creative, stuff like that. Yeah. But like you're still given like a salary, but you just give out more ideas. You still have like that entrepreneurship mind, but you still have a salary attached to that company.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So growing up, I know like both of my parents, like my father is a dentist and he owns his own practice, literally owns everything about his practice, the land, the building, everything, doesn't rent anything. And my mother growing up like would always be doing kind of like these, not like side hustles, if you will, but like business opportunities to do sales and make money. So growing up, both my parents were very business mindset. And so when you see that, the way it worked for me was I kind of early on knew like either I wanted to own something or I wanted to make a lot of money, because my first ever job was landscaping. So during college, or I guess not during the college semester, but during like the summer and winter breaks, I was landscaping. And dude, you're working 40 hours a week in the elements. And for the record, my older brother was working concrete, which was way harder than what I was doing. He was actually making more money, but it was way more taxing. Like having to get up out of bed at like 5 a.m. I had to be at work by 8. So like that's really not that bad. And I'd be looking at my paycheck, and I remember like one day, one of the guys was like, "Man, like I just saw like on YouTube like these two it's like a couple, they like go dumpster dive in Targets and they like grab like appliances and like they resell them and they're making like 30 grand." I was like, dude, that's like not that much money. And he's like, "Dude, that's more than what I make." And I'm like, wait, what? I was like, "You're a grown ass adult. You're like 35 years old. Yeah. What the hell?" Like I used to work with guys that like, because they had kids, they didn't even have enough money to go out on a date. Yeah. And I would literally, like, every now and then, like guys that I knew that I worked with, I would literally give them cash to be like, "Dude, Like, man, like go do that. Because
Yeah.
like I was a kid at the time. I was like, did I need the money? Yes, but at the same time, like it was a lot cooler to see someone be able to do something because I knew it would like benefit them and like better their lives more than it would me. At that, I would probably just go spend it on something stupid, like an Xbox or something. Like, you know what I mean? It's like I'm like that's just like consumerism right there. And so for me, like what happened was seeing that and being like, dang, dude, like guys are working their asses off and not making any money. I was like, I knew very early on, I will not do that. Okay, I refused to work in the food industry. Because I didn't want to know how the sausage was made, because I knew that it wasn't going to fulfill my dreams as far as like getting to the next level. It's all like to me, it was always about like, what are the stepping stones to get there? Yeah. Okay. Don't think about trying to make these giant leaps and just like, whoa, instant success, make a lot of money overnight. Like that doesn't happen. Like, trust me. Yeah. The only way you make a lot of money overnight is when you have a lot of money already. And you already have things in place to do that. Yeah. It doesn't work that way. And so it's like, I was always trying to figure out like the baby steps. So I will say I always kind of had an entrepreneurship type of style. I took a class in high school. I believe actually me and Scott did with like one of the coolest teachers of all times that basically taught you business. Setting up LLCs, setting up like...
Wait, no way. They actually taught you that?
Yeah. So we actually...
Wow, that's incredible. Dude, my entrepreneurship class I took in college, they didn't teach us shit.
And this was like in high school.
Wow. So that wasn't in college?
No, like this was in high school. So I was
that's incredible.
So our high school, man, like I remember like doing things like woodworking. So like building furniture and being like, man, I could do this for a living. Or doing this entrepreneurship class. And we even had a... wait, what was it called? I think so we actually had like a kind of like a graphics communication class. So even like in high school I was printing and selling my own shirts. Wow. It was actually kind of funny because so during this class you had a project where you would design a shirt and you would print a shirt. Wow. And I had like the idea where I was like, wait a second. I started like running the numbers. Yeah. You had to pay very, very little for the ink, right? It was like a one-time fee. And they're like, well, you can print as many shirts as you want. And I was like, wait a second, hold up. Yeah. So all these guys, they were selling these shirts for like, it was like 15 or 20 bucks. I was like, dude, I'm just gonna sell them for $6. Yeah. I was like, I'm gonna sell them for $6. And dude, let me tell you what.
Sell a fuck ton of them.
It was actually really funny. It was like this marshmallow getting backed up into a corner with like a graham cracker and a chocolate with a torch. Like being like, I'm gonna turn you into a s'more, dude. Yeah. And so it was funny because I sold so many like these shirts. It was like, you gotta understand, I was already kind of doing things like sales and trying to make money and like just trying to take advantage of like the system at a very early age. So this was like junior year of high school and then taking entrepreneurship. So it's like I already kind of knew back in high school that I wanted to do something like this, and I was already implementing these types of things. So in high school selling shirts or just selling whatever, and then in college doing like the parties and stuff. So it's like if you find yourself doing these types of things, I won't even tell you what I did back when I worked at Cellucor. I would never ever take anything from the company, but when I would go to different like supplement stores, they would have like free samples, and so I'd always grab a whole bunch of free samples. I would put like hundreds of these samples into a drawstring bag, and I'd sell the bag for $100. So yeah, because like for $100, you could literally get a drawstring bag filled with like 300 samples of protein, aminos, and I would put it all together and I would sell these. And people were getting like a smorgasbord variety pack of like supplements. It was kind of funny because I was like, probably shouldn't be doing this, but like people were buying them and people were actually being like, hey, for $100, like they were getting probably like a 2-month supply of like protein, aminos, and some other like fat burners and shit. So it actually wasn't a bad deal. It was actually like for them, it was actually a pretty solid deal. It's kind of messed up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep. Wow. So the reason why I asked that is because right now we're at kind of a time where the internet's really popular, right?
Yeah.
And the people that are on top right now on the internet are entrepreneurs, and they like to show off their lifestyle. So Correct. It's almost like a trend right now.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are trying to get into entrepreneurship, and they give up basically immediately. And a lot of basically this podcast that me and Ian created, we like to teach people the lessons we've learned throughout our entrepreneurship journey, because we don't want people to get into entrepreneurship, get fucked without knowing they're going to get fucked.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, you're going to get fucked.
It's dude.
You're going to get fucked basically right off the bat.
Yeah. It's like that's That's another guarantee.
Yeah.
So at some point in time, someone or something is going to screw you over. It's the nature of the beast.
So the question is how do you think other people would know if they're actually fit for this lifestyle or not? Like, you think it comes down to personality? You think it comes down to whether they can handle stress? You think it comes down to environment?
It's a combination of like a multitude of things, because owning a business and being able to be successful in business are two completely different things, right? So there are people that own businesses, but they pay people large sums of money to run them, right? And so there's that's a really in-depth question, even though it might seem kind of like a surface one. I would say it's a combination. In short, it's a combination of kind of like a mentality, and like, do you have the capabilities of dealing with stress, knowing when you're outgunned or outclassed, meaning you need to be able to delegate, you need to have leadership skills, you need to be able to try to predict the future. So it is really hard to take on all of that, and so it's definitely a combination of like all those types of traits. So and I would probably say this: you have to always be thinking about it. Okay, thinking about money, thinking about that like that's wrong. That's wrong. It's not about that. It's about the passion. It's you need to have the passion for something. And I will say this over and over again. It's the one thing I'll regurgitate a gazillion times over. You need to have the passion first. That's like rule number one. If you don't have the passion for it, don't do it. I was gonna do physical therapy. I thought, man, dude, the money's gonna be great. Like, I went to physical therapist before when I was in high school. Guess what? It sucked. It was like super lame. So like you need to have the passion for it like day one, because otherwise you're not going to be able to transition that into like any type of business or any type of like scalable entity, if you will. So
the last question, because we got some other stuff to do.
Oh, what do we got to do? What time is it?
I don't know. What time is it?
1:44.
Oh yeah. Okay. Last question, real quick. If there was one piece of advice you would give to your 18-year-old self, what would it be?
Oh, dude. Honestly, just stick to it. Like seriously, because I'll be honest. I really like what I've done in my life. So I would say stick to it. So don't let someone change you, like in that sense. Because I will say there were very, very few mistakes that I made in high school. All the most of like the big time mistakes I've made in the last like 6 years. So if you were to say, what would you do in the last like 24, or the last 6, completely different answer. But as far as 18-year-old, dude, stick to it, because obviously like you have the vision. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's going to conclude this episode. I wanted to keep this one shorter. But I think when I come back to Austin next month, I think we gotta get Alicia on here. Talk a little bit about relationships.
Ooh, that could be good.
A lot of people like to learn about relationships, and I love y'all's marriage. It's absolutely fantastic.
Well, that's a big key. I will say a big key to my success is.
That's also what I want to dive into next month, is with her. Because I know y'all been through it.
It's a combination of that. I really have like you guys that are working with us. It's having really good relationships and having like a solid partner in like a marriage is very crucial, because again, like we said, this is very, very stressful, and so being able to lean on people and being able to rely on people, that's huge. And it's really hard to find good people. It really is. Even though there's over 1 billion people out there, you'd be surprised.
100%. But we'll dive into that next month, because we'll definitely do a second time. But hope y'all enjoyed. Make sure to share this with someone, or just share this to your best friend who needs to hear it, because everyone needs help. So, thank you all for watching. I will catch y'all next week on the tripod.
Ooh.